place. Busting makes me feel good.
Welcome to Blockbusting. This is your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, Dani Fernandez.
Thank you for having me.
Dani, so glad to have you.
I know. We were just, I feel like, talking shit about all of our classmates.
Oh, yeah, we were. We were definitely just talking shit about how everybody is a
we
religious hypocrite.
Well, because we both went to high school in Dallas.
Yep.
Yeah.
I forget that. I forgot that until you brought it up. Yeah.
Because my family is from San Diego, but I feel like that was my formative years.
Formative years, yeah.
And then I went to school I went to college in Austin, which is 100 times better.
Austin's great. If I had gone to college in Texas, I probably would have gone somewhere in or near Austin.
Yeah.
Because but the thing is, I got accepted to TCU and SMU and stuff, but I did not want to go anywhere that my parents could just drive to unannounced.
Okay.
That's why I went across the country to North Carolina.
Those are also like extremely expensive private schools that you just name dropped.
But I also, I got good scholarships to both of those,
okay, yeah.
which helped out. I got more money there than I would have than the place that I actually wound up going to college. But I got the whole benefit of, you have to schedule flights and plan out in advance with me if you want to come see me, which is much better for me. Let's talk movies. Welcome to Blockbusting. Dani is a very, very good movie type guest, and I'm very glad to talk about some things with you today. Let's get things going. Talking about box office news to kick things off. It's coming to us courtesy of Box Office Mojo. Coco three-peats, Disaster Artist soars, and Warner Brothers tops $2 billion. So this comes as no surprise to me. Coco, number one at the box office once again.
Of course it did.
It's got $18.3 million this weekend.
I wept.
You saw it already?
I got to see it early. I'm going to brag about that. I got to see a screening, and even everyone was crying. Like, I knew I would cry because it reminded me of my family, but also, like, all the white people were also crying, so that was my review of it. Like, everyone cried.
The white people.
It even got them, too. but Pixar is good like that. They can make you weep. It was also really funny, but definitely tears. I, couldn't find tissue paper to take with me. Everyone was like, bring tissues. Vanessa Ramos, she actually helped write on it, and she was like, bring tissues. And I brought a roll of toilet paper. I loved it. I related to it a lot. It reminded me a lot of my family.
Yeah. What aspects of it remind you of your family the most?
Well, my brother plays guitar to my niece, and so that was music and family was a huge aspect of it. There's also a part about forgiveness and kind of not talking to certain members of your family, which I feel like that's a lot. Sometimes in a lot of Mexican families, we'll cut off someone and everyone has to cut them off.
Oh, yeah.
And that person's my dad.
Aha. And
that is also in Coco. And so it was a therapy session for me, Jay, to be honest. But Mark Ellis went with me and he also cried. So it's a crier.
I believe it. Pixar has a knack for crying, for getting people to cry. I cried during WALL-E. I think I cried during Up,
dude,
at least once.
That was awful. I mean, I loved it, but God, the first 10 minutes of Up.
Brutal.
Why? It's so raw. It's
yeah.
Their children scene. I get it, but God. Or they'll just take someone's parent away.
Mm-hmm.
They always kill off a parent.
Yep.
So.
But Pixar's bread and butter, I think, is making movies that are overtly family movies, but they are not just movies that are these bullshit animated movies that are coming out. It's like the Emoji Movie or Ice Age movies or Minions or whatever the hell. It's stuff that the family can go see. The kids obviously will love it because it's animated and it's great and it's got these really wacky and colorful characters, but the parents can appreciate, there's a level of dramatic, good nuggets of drama and a good narrative arc and stuff that the whole group can enjoy, and not just we're gonna make a bunch of fart jokes.
Yeah, I do feel like Disney's always been more sophisticated. People forget that Disney also a lot of their films are Academy Award winning.
Mm-hmm.
So especially for their storytelling and stuff. So I mean that might not be why they've won. I think a lot of times it's their soundtrack or something like that. But yeah, I definitely think that it relates to both. And probably why we as adults still love it so much. The ones that we grew up with.
Yeah. I know I have I've been very excited to see Coco. I will get into theaters to see it eventually. And the Incredibles 2.
I know.
I didn't watch any of the most recent spate of Pixar sequels. I didn't see Monsters University. I didn't see Finding Dory. But The Incredibles 2 has me really excited because I think The Incredibles is stealth one of the best Pixar movies. It's super funny, and it's very dark. Extremely dark.
It can be.
There's
like, what elements are you?
I think all the stuff going on with Syndrome and the fact that there's like rampant murder going on.
Oh, okay.
Compared to as far as Pixar movies go.
I thought
that's dark. It's not like
I went in a different direction where I thought you were gonna say him like basically cheating on his wife.
That too. That is also
having like this secret life away from her, where she thinks that he's having an affair. I mean, that's kind of deep for a Pixar film.
Yeah, I think it's one of the only Pixar movies that is rated PG for reasons like that. Yeah,
so dark.
That's dark. That's dark for Pixar. Number 2 and number 3, unmoved at the box office, Justice League and Wonder, continuing the train.
League?
No, I have no desire to see any of the DC universe.
Really?
No desire.
You didn't see Wonder Woman?
I didn't see Wonder Woman. I'll probably wind up watching it at some point.
Jay and I are actually going to see Wonder together.
Yeah, we're going to go see Wonder together. We're going to go see some facial deformities.
Get a few drinks and
I love that you have a movie show and you haven't seen some of these top films.
I've seen a lot of the other ones that are in the top 10 this week. The Disaster Artist made its rise to number 4, and that was coming from being in a little bit of a wider release, still pretty limited. That made just shy of $6.5 million. Very happy that Disaster Artist is doing well. That movie was fantastic, and I encourage everybody to go see that when it goes more wide. Thor Ragnarok I saw, and that's number 5. I loved that, and I'm just in general, I'm not really a big superhero movie person.
Oh yeah.
It's not really my cup of tea. But I think
they're taking over. That's what a lot of films are now.
Yeah, so it's got to be your forte.
Yeah, it has to.
Does it have to be?
Jay, it's only going to get worse. They're bringing up like characters that people don't even follow and haven't been following in the comics forever.
Yeah.
And now those characters are becoming popular. So.
I'm just going to be a curmudgeon. I'm just going to be the old man standing outside the Pacific Theaters of the Grove, just like, why are you seeing these? But Thor Ragnarok I really liked, and I think that Marvel is going in the proper direction by spreading the scope of the kinds of directors that it brings in, of making their movies a very strong eye candy as well. Thor Ragnarok was so colorful. The Guardians movies have been amazing to look at, really big visual feats.
Guardians is one that people didn't care about. No one was following Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I think the original Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the best of the whole Marvel canon.
Yeah. I will say though that I get overwhelmed. Like I already live with anxiety, and seeing all of these characters come together, like in Infinity War and like with Justice League and stuff. I prefer their individual films, just like I prefer the individual Marvel Netflix series.
Right.
Although I do like when they come together. I just get overwhelmed. It's too, like, even with Thor, which I love, Thor Ragnarok, I felt like they were like, oh shit, we got to check in with this guy, and then we got to check in with this person. I don't know.
Well, the idea, what boggles my mind.
That might be a personal problem of mine. I get overwhelmed.
What boggles my mind about all of this the most is the fact that if you pitched that movies would come together with multiple franchises like this and have all the characters bleeding in between the movies like this to moviegoers back in like the 70s or the 80s or even the 90s, I would say, is people would be like, no, there's no way that's going to work. And yet the Marvel canon has taken off. Justice League has taken off at the box office, even though it's still not living up to the expectations that they had for it. But you got all this gigantic, it's a universe. It's a cinematic universe.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people who were making movies way, way long ago when cinema was first starting to really come into its own as an art form, I don't think that people saw that coming.
I think with Infinity War, what they're going to end up doing is kind of toppling that. I think it's at its peak, and then I think after that they're going to kind of like start fresh again.
And that's kind of what they've alluded to in a lot of the previews.
What can you do after that?
What can you do after that?
Oh, you don't want to see a movie about Jarnaxa, the mistress of Thor, or their sons Magni and Modi?
Like, even now, which I respect it, but like Marvel has so many. I love Marvel, and Marvel has so many series out with like Runaways, and now they have Squirrel Girl and all those other things.
Yeah,
that they're throwing
and
in there.
and now Disney's talking about acquiring.
They are acquiring
Yeah,
with
is that
Fox.
officially gone down?
Yeah.
They're officially acquiring Fox, so the X-Men universe is going to
X-Men,
get
we
folded
have
in.
Deadpool,
Deadpool's folded in,
which is a part of that.
and then now there's other new X-Men movies. The New
Fantastic Four.
Mutants, Fantastic Four.
New Mutants, Inhumans. I don't even know. I can't even keep up. The Gifted. I
Yeah,
think is
that's
in there
on that's
too.
on Fox. It's just it sprawls.
But that's what I'm saying is that if you're not what is considered a nerd or if you don't keep up with these things, I almost feel like you're going to have to because that's what's taking over a lot. That's the popularity now.
Well, it's become no
More
longer
mainstream.
nerdy. It's so
Right.
mainstream now.
Like Stranger Things, which is kind of like sci-fi fantasy, or sci-fi thriller, but is now for everyone.
Right. Like in college, I was in a frat and I hung out with frat bros, and the level of excitement they had to go see the Avengers, I was like, you guys wouldn't have given a shit about this.
Right.
If you
Now you have Chris
now
Evans
you have-
that looks like one of you.
Exactly. And you got Chris Hemsworth and
Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
You got a little eye candy in there.
Yeah.
Throw Elizabeth Olsen in there. Why not? This is a movie frat bros will definitely love. Is Daddy's Home 2 coming in at number 6. Good little Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg
God.
comedy.
Yep.
6 million even. Coming on down the line, Murder on the Orient Express.
I do actually want to see that.
It's probably a movie that I would see watching ironically enough a train or a plane.
while you're traveling.
Yeah. Number 8, The Star, one of those animated movies that we were talking about earlier.
Oh,
It's
yeah. No, that's
but it's
the
a
birth
Christmas
of
story. It's the
Jesus.
birth of Jesus,
Okay.
but told from the point of view of the animals.
Oh, great!
Isn't that wacky?
Because they were all there.
Of course they were.
I-
I read the Christmas story many times.
I want to know their opinion.
I've always wanted to know what the donkey thought.
You know what? I was talking about this with some of my friends. Is that the drummer boy? Like, you remember the claymation?
Yeah.
The old. That's like super tragic. His like whole family dies in a fire, and he like hates people because of it. But then he meets Jesus, and then he loves people.
That's what I think we need. If they're gonna make more Christmas movies, they need to go back to that old school Rankin Bass claymation.
Yeah.
I love Little Drummer Boy is great. The one I forget, it's one of the ones something Santa Claus, but
Year Without a Santa Claus.
Year Without Santa Claus with the Heat Miser.
Snow Miser.
Yes.
Bum, bum,
They
yeah.
call me Heat
I
Miser.
always run into
he's so
people
good.
every year that have never seen it and don't know what I'm referencing.
They gotta watch 25 Days of Christmas.
Thank you. Now on Freeform.
Yes. Because
Is
ABC,
ABC
Family.
Gone.
No, it's all gone. It's been taken away.
I used to watch Aladdin on there, but whatever.
Yeah, we used to watch the Harry Potter movies on there. And now Harry
Yes.
Potter got pulled from Freeform.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That
they
was like
lost
a
the
Christmas
rights.
Tradition.
Not anymore.
I think that they show Willy Wonka now and the Chocolate Factory. They do.
The original?
Yep.
Oh, cool. That's the good one. We'll
Mhm.
talk. Oh boy. Number 9 is Lady Bird. Have you seen Lady Bird yet?
No.
I've said this every single week that it's been on. I've seen Lady Bird. It's good. It's not great. It's getting a lot of hype. It's getting a lot of awards, chatter going around it. It's okay. I think there are better coming of age movies out there. I'm a big Adventureland fan myself, and
Okay,
of
yeah, I
course
do like
John
that.
Hughes movies.
Yeah.
But I think, we'll see what happens with it. It's still staying up in the box office. It's going into wider and wider release, so it'll probably cling on for a while and get as the reviews continue to pile up in favor of it, people are going to go see it more. Number 10, our only new entry, is Just Getting Started, which looks like some kind of Hangover-esque movie based on the poster.
That looks like when what was that movie with the old guys that like tried to rob a bank?
Old guys robbing a bank.
Yep.
Dog Day Afternoon.
Doctor, that's a classic.
But that literally is what that looks like, though. I think it has like half of the same cast.
Well, that has become its own genre of movie
It is,
now.
the
Like,
old
let's have
guy-
old people doing things.
Yeah.
What was that one? The Helen Mirren and Bruce Willis, where they're
Yes.
spies.
Yeah, what was that?
Red.
Red.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
it's
were
like what our
spies,
parents-
but we're old people.
But you know what? They got my mom.
Yeah.
She's hooked for life.
My parents loved, or definitely my mom. I can't say the same for my dad, but It's Complicated, the old people rom-com with Alec Baldwin.
Yes.
Oh, that's like,
can I tell you, my favorite rom-com is Something's Gotta Give.
and that again,
So good.
that's catnip for middle-aged women,
and
for Danny apparently.
Yeah. I'm not quite a cougar yet, but yeah.
You got the Cougar Criterion collection on
So
lock
great.
though. Yeah, just
People
getting
forget
started.
Keanu Reeves is in that too.
He is?
Hmm
Oh,
He
man.
plays McDreamy. Essentially, he's like the suave doctor.
And didn't Diane Keaton get nominated for an Oscar for that movie?
It's a great film. Jay, please go back and watch it.
But yeah, just getting started. Morgan Freeman, Tommy Lee Jones, Jane Seymour. I mean, this has got old people written all over it, and it popped into the top 10. So good job. It also, this is according to Box Office Mojo, it also is ranked 42nd on the worst openings of all time for very wide release.
You know what? Can I say, like, I had no idea this was coming out because I haven't seen any marketing for it.
Me either.
So yeah, it's gonna tank if no one knows that it's. My mom would totally go and see this. Our
No.
moms would go
Oh, they definitely
if they
would.
knew about it.
I feel like I'm gonna go back home and my mom will have not seen any movies, but she's gonna want to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, my mom I can see is like using my Hulu account to just watch Seinfeld again and again and again. So
Well-
not branching out too much, Mom.
Let's talk about other movies that our parents probably won't see. This is, I think, probably some of the biggest movie news of the week, especially because the story has continued to develop since the beginning of the week. Quentin Tarantino making a
Mhm.
Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
So this is coming to us a double-edged sword here. We've got a story from Deadline and a story from Hollywood Reporter. Excuse me. So both of these movies, so Quentin Tarantino very famously a couple years back said that he's only going to make 10 movies. His 9th one is coming out, the Manson era movie that's coming out in a couple years. And if he does wind up making the Star Trek movie, it'll be movie number 10. Now, he's got some big stipulations. The one that we talk about in Hollywood, in the Deadline Hollywood article, is that after he pitched it to J.J. Abrams and Paramount, they loved it, but he
Mhm.
said he would only make it if it was an R-rated movie. And
Yeah.
they're like, totally.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, Star Wars is kind of, it's not R-rated, but it's taking a turn for more dark. It's darker than the last if you compare the current Star Wars to Star Trek, it's much darker. And then if you also look at other sci-fi / superhero stuff, like you had Deadpool, which was rated R, you had Logan, which was rated R. Like those are doing. I think that there's a movement towards
Yep.
making it.
Which
Now,
I
don't
think
know
is a
if it
good
can
move.
be his level of R-rated. I personally feel like what is going to happen is because I think he already is working on the script.
Well, and that's the thing. So the articles here says he met in a writer's room with Mark Smith, the writer of The Revenant, with let's see
I
here.
think Megan Amram.
Megan
was also-
Amram was
yeah.
in the room. Lindsay Beer, who I it doesn't say in the article here what she's worked on, and then Drew Pierce, who wrote he's written some stuff he wrote Iron Man 3, Sherlock Holmes 3, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And it looks like it's all people who have done big, large movies, and especially The Revenant, of course, winning a whole bunch of Oscars. Now, I think, and it doesn't sound like Tarantino is going to be doing a whole lot of actual writing. They're trying to pair him up with the writer who would probably do the brunt of the work, and then he would just be directing. But an R-rated Star Trek directed by Quentin Tarantino would be a big shift, but a shift that sort of makes a lot of sense.
It's
I think.
a shift that I feel like Star Trek needs if people are going to be interested in again, because I don't feel like they currently are with the last films that we got. But I also feel like this is what's going to happen. I feel like he's going to shoot. He might be involved. He might shoot some stuff. The studio's going to see it and try to get their fingers in it and be like, no, we can't do this. And he's fucking Quentin Tarantino, so he's going to be like, no, you're not going to tell me what to do.
Right.
This is how my Star Trek is going to be, or I'm not going to do it. And then they're going to break apart.
Especially given the other story that I think is relevant to the new Star Trek coming back is that Patrick Stewart said he would
Yeah.
reprise his role as Jean-Luc Picard if Tarantino directed. So you've got one of the biggest directors working. You've got an iconic actor, just bar none on his own, also playing a role that he made iconic, coming back potentially.
Yeah, but the reason why he said he would come back is because of Tarantino, because he knows that he wouldn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be in some shitty Star Trek film. You know, that is going to be mediocre. So that's the only reason that he will come back. And again, I feel like it would be great. I feel even if it is a risk, I think it's a risk that franchise needs to take.
Yep.
I know people hate comparing Star Wars and Star Trek, whatever. Everyone's going to compare it.
But
to the end of
especially,
time.
yeah, they're going to be compared,
But-
especially given J.J. Abrams' heavy involvement
Yes.
in both
Yes.
universes.
Yeah, and right now, if you are comparing them, I personally feel like Star Wars is, has been taking over, and I feel like there's no reason that Star Trek can't also capitalize that and take some risk and be a little bit darker.
Right. And especially because Star Wars is you're spot on with Star Wars making really a shift in towards darker territory. Rogue One was a overtly very dark movie.
Yeah.
From early reactions, it sounds like The Last Jedi has
Took a lot of risks,
took a lot of
too.
risks,
Yeah.
and then them branching out into the expanded universe a little bit with the upcoming Han Solo movie
Right.
and the other movies that they have on their slate. It sounds like if you want a star anything movie
Right.
to get to the level of Star Wars, or at least compete in
Right.
that same realm,
Yeah.
you got to take risks, and I think that this risk is the right risk to take.
We'll see if they do it.
I hope
think
they
should
do.
listen to us, Jay.
think they
I
should.
hope they're listening to this podcast right now.
I hope they are. This is another. This is a story that's right up your alley, I think, as well, given your penchant for comic book movies and stuff. Spider-Man, new Spider-Man animated movie coming out, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, with Miles Morales.
Yes.
And this is a big
Everyone's
leap
really excited about it.
because Miles. So he's been Miles has been
Disney XD. Well,
right.
he's been in the animated. Yeah.
and then he's been in the comic
Comics,
books for
yeah.
a long
Yeah, yeah,
time
yeah.
now. So this is the first time he's been put in an actual feature.
Mm-hmm.
And they have Shameik Moore doing the voice, which I think is a good pick. I loved Dope. Dope is a very good movie. And this also has some Phil Miller and Chris Lord, or I might be mixing their names up. Chris Miller, Phil Lord, whatever. Those guys are great, and they are involved in this. So I think that this could be really good. The trailer looks solid.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
animation style is really unique.
Yeah, it looks really beautiful. That is exciting for the Spider-Verse, like in general. With we were just talking about how they're bringing in. I do feel like though Marvel is going to be having every character ever.
Yeah.
This one is definitely necessary. Miles is an amazing, super fun, great comic. If you've been following the comics, or even when he popped up on Disney XD, which forced me to watch Disney XD.
And I know he's not Spider-Man in
No.
Spider-Man Homecoming, but I know that Miles Morales is referenced directly.
Yeah.
Donald Glover plays him in the movie,
no,
right?
No. Donald Glover, that's his uncle, I think.
His uncle. Okay, I
Yeah.
knew that he was referenced. I just didn't know
Or
if it
family.
was
Might
actually
be his
him.
cousin or his uncle. I think he talks about his nephew, and that's Miles.
So that could be coming into play in the live action.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'd also be
Spider-Verse.
excited to see. I really like Spider-Gwen as well, and so that would be exciting to have in here. But yeah, Marvel is they have another animated film coming out that has Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl and like a bunch. Yeah, so it's a lot to keep up with.
It's a big year next year for big franchises.
Yeah.
And over the course of the next, I mean, Infinity War's coming out what, 2019, 2020?
No, it's 2018.
Is it 2018?
Yeah.
Man, I'm behind. I see. This is how out of the loop in the superhero
It has
world
to
I
be
am.
because the trailer dropped, right? So it has to be this upcoming year.
Yeah, you're right. Oh God, you're out schooling me on my movie podcast. This is why I have you on as a
That's why
guest.
you brought me on.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually May 4th.
Wow. So right at the beginning of the summer.
Well,
yeah,
I
perfect.
remembered that because I felt like that was a very, because Marvel and Star Wars are now under Disney, and May 4th is like a Star Wars holiday to Star Wars people,
Mhm.
like that whole like May the 4th be with you thing. So I thought that was interesting and probably on purpose that they did that.
Yep. Let's close things out of the movie news with our dip back into the world of Hollywood Predators. This week in Hollywood Predators, making his 2-time appearance, Bryan Singer.
Oh yeah.
Official allegations have come out against him, raping a 17-year-old boy in 2003. Now, Bryan Singer, we talked about him last week because
we predicted that.
we did predict this. We spot on predicted this. He said that he was leaving. His rep said that he was leaving for a health reason.
Oh, no, we knew.
And we knew.
Yeah.
And now
health
he's
is that he's
That was
piece of
real-
shit.
his health is that
Yeah,
he is
he's
mentally ill and crumbling.
I think we specifically said that he was vomiting because he was so
So-
nervous.
He's so nervous about getting
well,
pinched.
I mean, but is this a thing that I feel like? Did you guys already kind of know about?
Yeah,
I
this
feel
is
like
one of
was
those-
in our industry. The same with like the Kevin Spacey thing, where a lot of my friends have been around them or knew of these stories.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bryan
Um,
Singer's around the comedy store all the time, and we just assume.
I think this is one of the I mean, we've talked about this when we brought up the Harvey Weinstein stuff when it first dropped with Kevin Spacey. The fact that Bryan Singer is a predator has been going around, has been an open secret for years.
Yeah, for like
decades.
Yeah.
And now it's officially. I'm surprised, honestly, that it took this long for somebody to officially come
Yeah.
out and make an accusation. So Bryan Singer is basically has gone off the grid after being fired from Bohemian Rhapsody, and it looks like I'm certain over the course of the next couple weeks there are going to be more names coming out against Bryan Singer.
Oh yeah, I thought you just meant more Predators. I'm like,
Oh
there are.
no, there are definitely going to be
Those
more
are coming
Predators
out,
coming
too.
out. Who
Yeah.
and this is I think the best time to speculate now, because I think now that the biggest person out of the death pool of Hollywood Predators has been knocked off now with Bryan Singer, who's next?
Jaylay, I will tell you that off
Ooh,
this.
tell me off air.
I will tell you off air who the next person is, because that person is a piece of shit, and I know some of the people that have evidence and that they have hurt, and I'm hoping that comes out soon, and everyone else is hoping. It's one of those things where it's another one that like people knew, we know, victims and some of the people that were affected, and I'm just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah,
But I can't do it myself. It's not my place right now.
fair enough. I'll tell you what. This is this whole holiday season. Look for some gifts under the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Of the industry turnover continuing in the direction that it should be going.
Yeah, that
Which
it
is
should
great.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good that all this stuff is coming to light. And let's move along. Now that we've covered all of our stories, let's talk about this week's movie. Dani Fernandez, you hate Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
As I should, and everyone should. I went back and I watched the film, but I went back and I watched the trailer on YouTube, and there were people commenting like, "I don't understand. I love this movie. This is my favorite movie. I don't understand why people didn't like it." It's one of those things where I try to be really open-minded. I'm like, how did we sit down and watch the same film? I really try to be lax about, because I know how much time and production involvement goes into films now that I'm in this industry, and I'm like, this is not a good film. How could you butcher? I do want to say that they made it very apparent that it's not a remake. It's not a remake.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to go closer to the source material.
Yeah.
I wish so. The screenwriter who wrote it and some of the people that worked on it never saw the original, and I want to be like, you know
Really?
what? Mhm.
I did not see that part. I'm on
Yeah.
the Wikipedia page now, and I know there's
never
a lot
saw
of
the
it.
original. I want to be like, maybe you should have.
'Cause-
Maybe you should have seen what worked for them. I understand that you wanted to have a different take.
Mhm.
I'm totally okay with like people taking risks or whatever, but you might want to see what actually worked and why that's a beloved film.
Yeah.
That's considered a classic.
It is exactly a classic. It was one of when my family got a DVD player. That was one of the first movies that they bought was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, for a little background for the listeners. So again, we are not talking about the original 1971 film with Gene
Which is
Wilder,
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate
Yeah,
Factory,
with Gene Wilder.
and this
That is beautiful.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, directed by Tim Burton, 2005 musical fantasy comedy film starring Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka,
Mhm.
and one of the most bizarre casting choices.
Did you look at the other cast? So when they originally started to talk about being closer to the source material, whatever the hell they want to call it, when they originally talked about making this film again in 1999, the first person that was on their list was Nicolas Cage. Which would
Wait,
have been-
what?
Because it was 1999, that might have been
Oh.
peak Cage time. That would have been
That would have
amazing.
been
It would have been
beautiful.
awful, but it would have been amazing.
I'm looking at the list of the casting now. So here's people who they discussed with. This is before Tim Burton was even involved. This
Yeah.
is Warner Brothers considered. Bill Murray, Christopher Walken, Steve Martin, Robin Williams, Nicolas Cage, Jim Carrey, Michael Keaton, Robert De Niro, Brad Pitt, Will
I
Smith.
could see Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro would
He
be a great Willy
yeah,
Wonka.
Yeah.
John Cleese, Eric Idle, Michael Palin, all would have been great choices. Adam Sandler, that would have been a little out there. Marilyn Manson, reportedly one of the role. And then once Tim Burton got involved, Johnny Depp was the only actor Burton seriously considered, but Burton's second choice in case Johnny Depp was unavailable, Dwayne motherfucking The Rock Johnson.
I mean, that probably would have made this film better, to be honest.
I think it would have. Because you get somebody who is so much more likable.
Likeable.
And man, just Willy Wonka with tattoos.
I know, and like just I would have loved having The Rock. I think he's playful. I think he's comedic. But with Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp was not likable in this. Willy Wonka is a little creepy. Like
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was watching him, like he is a little creepy. Like even the original one, the Oompa Loompas coming out, the whole thing has a creepy vibe, but it also is magical and whimsical and likable and comedic. Like I, I was telling you that I was watching this film and I'm like, someone tried to write jokes into this and they just didn't work. And I want to find out who that person was.
Yeah, I remember watching this movie I was watching it just sitting in at my computer chair, watching it on Netflix yesterday, and just watching some of the attempts at jokes that they threw out. And I was just like, I could see why people would do this, and they like pause, and there would be like a part in the theater where people would laugh, and I'm like, but this just seems so awkward and stilted.
I feel like it was like when it was supposed to be a joke, they would beat you over the head with it. Like his whole issue with parents, you know, they also made him have an issue with his dad.
Yeah.
And he couldn't say the word parent, so they were like, you're they literally did that for a minute before someone was like parents. And then he did it again later where Johnny Depp was like and I was like, we get it, Johnny. We get the joke, Johnny.
And here's my honest take on this movie. I think that if I had seen this in high school when it came out, I was in a Tim Burton kind of phase in my life. I had just seen Nightmare Before Christmas for the first time.
It's an amazing film.
Doug, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Batman, like
Batman's
he's
great,
amazing.
but it got too Tim Burton-y for its own good.
Yeah, I don't want to blame him for the whole thing.
I can't blame him for the whole thing, but I definitely think that it was
was like darker, but not in a fun way.
Right. And I think that the darkness kind of worked for some parts of the movie. I think that
but not for the whole thing.
Exactly. So let's boil it straight down the middle here. If you had to say like what the overarching reason for why you hate this movie is, if you could boil it down, where does this movie go wrong?
I think it's a concept that you can't mess up, and they messed it up. You know, I think it was because they wanted to be so different than the original one. Like the Oompa Loompas weren't even. I know that the original ones are kind of like also not as likable, and they're kind of creepy. But this, like, the songs were like auto-tuned and like digitized. You know what I mean? Where it was like a pop version of it. I couldn't even understand what they were saying. At least the original Oompa Loompas have like lyrics that pop up on the screen. But it also felt very like clinical and like his factory itself felt really like a lot of technology, whereas the sets that were made in the original Willy Wonka were handmade. You know, so it was like grounded and kind of like this whimsical like Wizard of Ozzy feel to it. Whereas this one just felt like they figured out computer animation, you know, like or whatever CGI or whatever they use.
Even the chocolate room in this one looks like it's in a warehouse.
Yeah,
which is not. It's wrong.
Yeah, it didn't have like a sweet like vibe to it. I don't know. That was it. The jokes. God, there's that one joke where Johnny Depp is like, "Little girl, don't you touch that squirrel's nuts."
Little girl, like, don't you touch that squirrel's nuts.
Don't you touch that squirrel's nuts. Which we need to talk about the squirrels, because while I was watching it, I had a full like breakdown and was
you texted me about these squirrels. So there's this scene in the original book and in this movie, which is apparently much more in line with what Roald Dahl wanted. There's a scene when Veruca Salt is around, the bad kid, the really bad kid, the spoiled brat. In the first movie, there's a scene where she's in the golden goose room, and there's the egg room.
And she's seen as a bad egg.
And she's a bad egg.
Yeah.
But in this one, she's a bad nut, and it's squirrels in a nut room, and they're cracking these nuts.
And I texted Jay because I went down a wormhole on Wikipedia, and it says, you guys, Tim Burton wanted real squirrels, so they got 40 squirrels that they had since birth, and they fed them, and they trained them. And then they ended up they trained them so that they could like crack a nut and take the meat out like on a conveyor belt. He wanted real squirrels that ended up not working, and they ended up using animatronics and CGI. And I was like, what the hell happened to these 40 squirrels that they had enlisted to do this?
There's a memorial for them on Hollywood Boulevard.
There should be, yeah.
He got 40 real squirrels from birth.
The
for
animals were
this
trained
film that ended up being shitty.
Every day for 10 weeks. They began coaching. Can you imagine being a squirrel coach for a movie? That's what Tim Burton. That's the kind of movie that Tim Burton wanted to make. He wanted to make a movie where people were coaching squirrels from the sidelines.
I wonder if he thought that it was because another thing was that he wanted real chocolate. He was really upset, or not really upset, but he didn't like the way that the chocolate river looked in the original Willy Wonka.
Right,
so
it
he
just looked like brown water.
So he demanded that they have like essentially faux chocolate for Johnny Depp to sail his boat on. So they had like however many thousands of chocolate in this river, where it just feels like you can watch a director slowly spiral out of control with like the 40 live squirrels, the chocolate river. I think that he really thought that it was going to be a beloved classic like the original.
Yeah, I think so too, especially because this is Tim Burton at sort of what I think he was hoping was the height of his powers.
A real Hollywood movie.
A real Hollywood. He was trying to go practical effects. It's very like Christopher Nolan sounding, the level of detail that he tried to put into this movie. You know, we're going to make sure that it's no CGI, and we're going to do as much practical stuff as possible.
Why didn't they do that with the factory? The factory was like,
it just looks wrong.
Yeah, it looks so computerized.
And especially you use the same actor for all the Oompa Loompas.
Yeah.
How are you going to pull it off and make it not look ridiculous?
Yeah. Yeah, I just this film is not good.
It's not good. So there's a lot of parts of this movie that are not good. Let's talk about Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka.
Okay.
Johnny Depp and Gene Wilder, if you compare their Wonkas, Gene Wilder, obvious, it takes it in a walk.
Well, you know what? I was looking at reviews, and a lot of people compared Johnny Depp to Michael Jackson.
I saw that.
And he was not happy about that.
Yeah.
That was in multiple reviews. I'm like, I'm sorry you gave off that vibe, dude. But he kind of did. Like, he talked, like, softly and kind of, like... But Johnny Depp's excuse was, like, well, Michael Jackson likes kids, and Willy Wonka doesn't.
That's not a good reason. You're talking soft. You're pale as fuck. And you
also just have this predatory vibe to him that I felt like the original Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka didn't.
Right.
And I do feel like there's a way that Johnny Depp could have done Willy Wonka different from Gene Wilder, but not in a creepy, predatory, unlikable way. He just wasn't likable.
The thing that I think makes Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka work is, and this is something he talked about in an interview, is that you never know where his real intentions lie.
Yeah.
As a character, you don't know whether he's on your side or if he's against you. And he's
also subtle.
He's very subtle. The only time that he goes big at very key moments of the movie.
Yeah.
Like during the infamous boat tunnel sequence.
Yeah.
And at the very end when him and Charlie are having it out after all the other kids have been
right.
dispatched.
Such a great scene.
Great scene.
Good day, sir. Yes,
I
love it.
And that's the thing. There's so much. There's a lot of layers to Gene Wilder's portrayal of Willy Wonka that Johnny Depp just did not make the choice to have.
He was being awkward for awkward's sake. And I feel with Gene Wilder, he, it wasn't clear how he felt about the kids. Where, like, that scene where the kid falls into the chocolate river or whatever, and he'd always be like, no, don't.
No, don't.
But it was
stop.
just so subtle. And then he would move on. Whereas Johnny Depp, I feel like, would like beat you over the head with the fact that he, felt awkward or uncomfortable around.
Yeah.
I don't know, just.
And you also have the benefit in the Gene Wilder version of you don't see Willy Wonka at all until his official introduction into the film when they get to the factory. And that whole scene is such a mindfuck anyway. And this is something I'm going to pull directly from his quote of what he was talking about, what I just mentioned. When I make my first entrance, I'd like to come out the door carrying a cane and then walk toward the crowd with a limp. After the crowd sees Willy Wonka is a cripple, they all whisper to themselves until they become deathly quiet. As I walk toward them, my cane sinks into one of the cobblestones I'm walking on and stands straight up by itself, but I keep on walking until I realize that I no longer have my cane. As I start to fall forward just before I hit the ground, I do a beautiful somersault and bounce back up to great applause. From that time on, no one will know if I'm lying or telling the truth. That is the kind of layered character choice that I wish we could have seen in Johnny Depp. Because in his intro, first of all, you see him when he's talking to Uncle Joe in the factory. And you're just like, oh, he's just like a quirky, weird dude.
Yeah.
And then
he seems more like an eccentric, like billionaire type of guy. Yeah.
And then all the stuff happens and where they shut the factory down. You see this whole backstory that's not in the Gene Wilder version, and then the first time you see him at the factory in this film is after the animatronic scene goes awry, which I do admit I actually liked that part.
Oh, did you?
I liked that part, but when Johnny Depp shows up and he's just like clapping in the corner, just
Right.
like, oh, that was so silly. I'm like, what? Okay. I
Yeah.
don't like this version. It's just you're right. It seems like it's being played for awkwardness sake.
Have you ever had a friend that like goes away to a different country and comes back with an accent or something like that?
Yes.
That's what I felt like Johnny Depp was doing the whole time.
Yeah, except he was in Britain and he had no accent, even though his dad had an accent, and everybody who's around has an accent.
And they needed to throw in the like dad thing. I think that
that
honestly,
was super shoehorned in.
Okay, so I feel like the whole reason why he like is obsessed with candy because his dad was a dentist. I feel like they kept that in the film because they thought that was going to add layers to him,
Right.
and his motivation and stuff. But it
I mean,
didn't.
it's straight up true though. My mom's a dentist, and I used to have some weird obsession with candy.
as I'm sure all children do,
Right.
You know,
Like
or,
but I think
I have
that
a question. Do you floss regularly?
Yeah, my mom calls me about it every day.
I don't floss.
I haven't gotten on it either.
My dentist hates me for
I
it.
feel like it's a lifestyle that I need to have a reminder or something, force myself.
There's an app for that.
But it's all so bad because it's like they're playing it and he just has this. He's like, it's like, oh, papa, and then they cut into his eyes. They zoom in, and it just shows him looking ridiculous with this headgear and all this stuff.
Can
and
we talk about his makeup?
Let's
too?
talk about the makeup.
Like, they made him. They couldn't even cover his like mustache. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
They try to make him so pale and white, which I guess is his preferred like color. Because remember in Edward Scissorhands, and I feel like every other, maybe not like all of his films, but I feel like he in Dark Shadows after this, which
Yeah.
he was a vampire. But
I'll tell you
whatever.
what, it would be very interesting to see if they had made Captain Jack Sparrow a super pale like zombie pirate.
But anyways, they couldn't quite cover his mustache or like his 5 o'clock shadow of his mustache because like you would always like see it in all the shots.
Right.
That took me out of it. He did like base his look off of Anna Wintour from Vogue, like the editor.
But
or
that's the
whatever.
thing. I think that they tried to make it too cold and clinical.
Yeah, that's how
and
it felt.
It's not the right vibe for the movie.
Right.
It's one thing to say that this movie hits the dark notes that the original movie didn't quite hit, that Roald Dahl did not approve of. But you can do dark and put it in this big, crazy, whimsical world and make it work just fine. You don't have to do darkness and then make it industrial on top of that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't line up.
I still feel like going full dark was not the right. Even if they didn't have it industrial, I feel like making it like super dark because it's supposed to be like a candy land. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it just didn't have the same vibe to it. And also, I don't know. How did you feel about the individual characters?
So I will say this. I think that they picked Freddie Highmore did a great job as Charlie. He did as good of a job as he could.
Right.
I hated the grandparents.
I know.
I hated the grandparents. The whole time I was just like, this is not the Grandpa Joe I know.
Right.
It seems when he gets out of the bed for the first
I
time,
hate
it's
that.
so
I know.
fake.
I hate it.
It's so
Also, like,
obvious.
put some music or something with it. God, I was like, I could have looked.
Put
this
that
over
top
and
40
helped.
auto tune there. Don't put it in the Oompa Loompa songs.
And he just gets up and awkwardly dances in silence, and everyone watches him. And I'm like, is this supposed to be an endearing moment? Because I just want to fast forward through it.
Yeah.
That I didn't mind. I hated Mike TV's like after moment once he like the whole little like digital YouTube like thing that he was spiraled into.
Yeah.
I hated that.
I honestly do
It reminded me
think
of like a Vine video or something. Like I hated it.
I think that they set the kids up, particularly Violet and Mike TV. I think that they set both of those kids up with better backstories than they had in the original.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Because Mike TV in the original is I think the most annoying character
He
of the
is,
whole
yeah.
movie, and in this he's also annoying, but he's not annoying in the way that he's grating to watch.
Yeah.
He's kind of compelling because they give him this whole backstory where he's like, I want to be. I kill people in video games, and I'm like a sociopathic child, and that's kind of interesting to me. And the same kind of deal with Violet is they make her this hyper competitive,
Yeah.
again,
she was
sort of
cast good.
sociopathic. She did yeah, they cast her very well, and they cast her mom perfectly for that too, because they were both. It's obviously like this is who she's going to grow up to be. She's going to be this plastic surgery lady wearing the same outfits all the time. But the other kids, I was just like, okay, for the first movie, it did it better, and I think that they stripped they stripped it of the fun.
Yeah, for sure.
At the
Yeah,
end
it
of the
was not
day,
fun.
that's
Yeah.
the biggest problem. I think if I could marry parts of those movies together, like I would love to have a version where we get to see Mike TV as this like dark, evil, bad child, and
opposed to just like an annoying brat.
as opposed to just an annoying brat who's in a dumb dime store cowboy costume.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I feel like if you go back and watch the original Willy Wonka, which you will be able to on Freeform this Christmas.
Yeah. Bring it
they
back.
need to pay me. No, I feel like if you want to see something, I do feel like it has dark elements in the original Willy Wonka. I feel like it does have it is creepy.
Oh, it's creepy
Some
and
of the
dark.
music is creepy.
The music
kids
is creepy.
disappearing is creepy, but it's still likable, you know.
Mhm.
And so I think going the way that they did was just,
You know what it feels like is that there's more at stake in the first movie. In the
yeah.
original, feels like there's a lot more at stake. From the get-go, when Charlie gets the ticket for the first time, he's literally mobbed by people at that candy store.
Right.
And in this, it's just like two people who are like, I'll give you some money for that ticket, kid. And then the store clerk's like, no,
Get
you're
outta
going to be
here.
fine. Get out of here. Take that home. It's like, oh, he's going to get away with it, and everything's going to work out fine.
Also, why did you have Helena Bonham Carter in this if you're not going to utilize her?
Right?
She should have been in that candy land. Like, she should have been in that factory.
Yeah.
She was just his mom, and she had, like, 4 lines. I know that, like, contractually they all have to appear in films together. Like, her and Johnny Depp and Tim Burton and Danny Elfman. Like, I just imagine that they all go to, like, Barbados together on for,
Oh,
like,
yeah, of
vacation.
course.
That they're, like, family now. They've been in so many films together. But, like, she didn't do anything. Why would you have, like, this amazing actress as just his mom?
I know, and it's not. It's just it's a real throwaway, and it's a waste of her talent as an actress.
Yeah.
She
I imagine
could
she
have
just wanted to get, like, another, like, apartment in London or something like that.
This movie, honestly, this movie just felt phoned in.
Yeah.
There's no heart behind this movie, which is also mind-boggling to me, given when I was reading about this movie after I watched it and while I was watching it, the amount of seeming care that Tim Burton went into making this movie and that John August made in writing this movie.
Right.
They took the time to go talk to the Dahl family and to
Right.
make sure that it was approved by his estate, and they really wanted to, they fucking trained 40 squirrels.
Yeah, they trained 40 squirrels. May they rest in peace.
And they
I don't know
used
what happened.
chocolate for the actual river instead of making it brown water.
But I guarantee those are the only 2 things they told the estate. We're gonna train the squirrels. They're going to use real chocolate.
No, they were excited about Johnny Depp. The state.
Oh, and Johnny Depp.
And Johnny Depp. And here's the thing, though, is because if you just look at Tim Burton also worked on James and the Giant Peach,
Right.
which is another doll, and he's worked on several. I think he did after this, obviously, the BFG. He was,
And
and
they were both pretty beautiful.
yeah, they were.
Yeah,
beautiful.
James and the Giant
James
Peach is a
James
very
on-
good movie.
It is dark. Definitely has dark elements.
Oh, extremely dark.
Extremely dark. Okay, but then it's also bright. It has great songs in it. It's I don't know what happened. I imagine that when they found out that Tim Burton was working on it, they were like, yeah, of course. It makes sense. It makes sense that Tim Burton would work on a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory remake. But I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I do, for the record, like you were saying with Nightmare Before Christmas is amazing. Like, even using the dark and light elements of that and the comedy in that, I don't know what happened.
And I still think I will say the one joke in this movie that I did really, really, really appreciate was in the TV room when they did the 2001 homage with the monolith and all the monkeys trying to grab the chocolate bar.
Yeah.
That as a film person, I really appreciate it. I'm
Yes.
like, that is such a niche joke. Nobody's gonna get that. None of the kids who are seeing this movie are gonna get that. But that's it. That's the one time in the movie that I was like, oh, there's a spark of creativity here. And even that, because it's a ripoff.
Right. I absolutely hated the Oompa Loompas dressed in like their little disco shiny attire.
Yeah,
like,
getting
dancing.
together for their best, like they're going out to go do a track meet.
Yeah, I hated it.
They're going out clubbing in their tracksuits. It's not right.
I don't understand people that like it though. Like, I want to know what other movies they like.
Me either. And that's the thing. I feel like, look, Tim Burton has obviously had a long and illustrious career. I mean, he's directed so many movies, Quirk Master Supreme. And at this time, this is right after Big Fish, Planet of the Apes, and Corpse Bride came out this same year as well. And Corpse Bride,
did
he
it?
got a lot of acclaim for.
Right. With the same people again. The
Yeah.
same exact cast from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
But as far as like in the canon of Tim Burton movies, there's
Do you think
this is
he
just
likes
one of those.
this?
I don't think he does. I
Okay.
think that I'm
I
going
don't
to
think a
slip
lot of the
into his
people-
shoes here, but this
Yeah.
is something that it's like it was a cash grab. It was made to try and capitalize on.
I don't think that's why he made it though.
But that's the kind of how it comes off.
Oh,
in the
for
end.
sure. But
Oh,
I
it's-
don't think that that's why Tim Burton
No.
signed on or why Johnny Depp signed. I think
they signed on-
legitimately thought this is a great.
They wanted to make it like as a passion project.
Yeah, and where's the turning point when you realize this isn't going to happen? Where
The
way
squirrels.
That's when you bring in CGI squirrels.
The squirrels
And you're
were
like,
the turning
ah,
point.
fuck.
Tim, this isn't working out.
I don't know. I was thinking that too. I was when I was watching the film, I was like, at what point were they like, we can't save this?
I don't
You
know.
I wish they filmed it in sequential order, so you're like, oh, half an hour, and they're like,
So, what do you think, if anything,
Mhm.
could have been done to save this movie?
I think that Johnny Depp could have just played it not as overtly awkward. You can still be awkward without having to purposely be awkward. You know what I mean? Like, I also feel like it could have been brighter. I feel like it didn't have to be so clinical in the actual factory itself. I felt like they could have had more fun with the props and just made it like a Wizard of Oz-esque type of, look to it. Yeah, and the kids I think were okay. I don't think that any of them crashed and burned this film. But Johnny Depp, yeah, he went out of his way to be awkward. Couldn't he have just been a little bit more subtle and likable?
Yeah.
about it?
Likability is a big problem. There's just no likability in this movie.
Yeah. Whereas Captain Jack Sparrow, very likable.
Yep.
He knows how to do it, but I mean, I guess that's not a good example because that person is anything but subtle as well. But yeah,
This is another thing, and reading about the movie that really blows my mind afterwards. Is
I almost
that it
felt
has,
like they needed a laugh track. There were so many times it felt like they were waiting for laughter. Like he
Yeah.
would do a joke and then it would just be silent.
this movie has an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie has been graded. CinemaScore has an A- according to audiences, and it has good review. Like people, like
It also has
respected.
shitty reviews too.
Roger Ebert gave this movie a good review.
You know what? They were on that Johnny Depp train. Okay, think about it. 2005, he had already come out with The Black Pearl,
But
Pirates
here-
of the Caribbean.
Roger Ebert has an issue with Johnny Depp's performance too. That's the thing.
Oh,
He says he asks what was Johnny Depp thinking of. He has no idea.
What he was
Even they know
channeling.
what is
Michael
he
Jackson.
doing in this movie.
Michael Jackson.
If you could pick your dream Johnny, if you could pick somebody else to play Johnny Depp, I would pick Nicolas Cage. If you could pick
that
your,
would have been great. We would at least people would remember that film. Nobody remembers this film. Nobody
Right.
talks about this film. I feel like if Nicolas Cage was Willy Wonka, people would at least remember it and reference it often.
oh yeah,
And that would also be on Freeform probably during Christmas.
for sure.
I'd pick Rami Malek to play Johnny Depp.
Do a double feature, National Treasure, and then Nicolas Cage
They do show that.
and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and you got a hit on your hands.
The only thing that could have made it more awkward, I feel like it was almost like as awkward as if like Charlie Sheen had done it. You know what I mean? Like it was so not like it was awkward.
That sounds.
And who would I pick now?
Yeah, if you could pick somebody, say Tim Burton decides to take a crack at it again. Actually, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. If you could pick a director, not an actor, we'll fuck off with actors for a sec. But if you could pick a director, who you think would do right by
God.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Roald
Um,
Dahl's vision?
Oh,
who would you go
his-
with?
I don't. God, that's a good.
I'm gonna throw one out that immediately came to mind is Taika Waititi.
I was gonna say that too because he would keep it fun.
Mm-hmm.
He would keep it fun. People would like it.
Yeah.
You know, it might be playing it a little bit safe, but it would be comedic and it would be fun.
Yeah.
And all of his people would be likable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that.
Honestly, I mean, a lot of the Marvel directors would do a great job with this.
Yeah,
You'd
for
have
sure.
James Gunn, I think, would put out a really fun
Yeah.
Willy Wonka.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Russo
James Gunn
brothers
is a
would
good,
probably put out a
I would
fun
say
one.
Taika Waititi, James Gunn. That would be fun. If you did want like a weird, twisted, dark, which you said you kind of liked,
Mhm.
I know that Jordan Peele is doing Twilight Zone now, so that might be interesting.
Jordan
to see
Peele
him
would be
do a
interesting.
Willy Wonka.
And we'd probably get a Black Willy Wonka in there,
there
too.
you go. But like, it might be a little darker, like but also good.
Yeah.
I don't know who.
Now I want to pick who's our best Black Willy Wonka. Keegan-Michael Key'd probably be a good one.
The guy
for sure.
the guy
Yeah.
from Get Out.
Daniel
slash-
Kaluuya?
Yeah. / Black Mirror.
He would be, but that's the thing. He's a great actor, but I can't see him as Willy Wonka.
Or you mean delivering like enough lines like Willy Wonka?
I'm talking about somebody who's like a strong.
I think Keegan is a good choice.
Keegan's
yeah.
a good choice. Someone who's like a strong comic actor, but because of that, can play the weird depth
Oh, I wasn't
that
thinking.
Gene Wilder was doing.
I wasn't
too.
even thinking of like comedic actor. I was thinking of like Idris
You know what?
Elba
Who
or-
deserves his spotlight back in the sun?
Who?
Will Smith.
Will
Smith,
and they're originally
motherfucker.
considering for this. Will Smith, you actually probably
He's
knock
the genie.
Willy Wonka out of the park.
He's the genie now for Aladdin.
Guy Ritchie's Aladdin.
Cat
I know.
Williams.
Written by this same movie. Oh, Cat Williams is Willy Wonka.
That'd be crazy.
Or Chappelle is Willy
Chappelle.
Wonka.
Oh God.
That's Chappelle
that's
just
different
smoking
that's
in
a
the
different kind
chocolate
of
room.
Candyland.
But that
Yeah.
wouldn't even be weird. We wouldn't think anything.
That
of
would
it.
just be fun.
Yeah, no, that would be great. I think that would be like, that's the pick that people would see and they'd be like, oh yeah, no, of course, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Gosh, we should make movies, Jay.
We should make movies. Well, look, if you like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, then I hope you have a fun shift at Hot Topic later on. I think
No,
you're gonna be
I mean
okay.
if you like it, the world is ending, and I'm glad that you find pleasure in small things.
Yeah.
I did want to say the other person that they had looked at was Jim Carrey.
And
He would have done better than Johnny Depp.
at the time, he would have done a great job. I can't speak for Jim Carrey now because it seems like he
None of
doesn't
us can.
doesn't care anymore, and he can't even speak for himself.
2005 Jim Carrey, probably.
That's like Bruce Almighty era Jim Carrey.
There you go.
He's a great- that'd be a great
He
pick.
would have been so much better than
Would've been
Johnny
so much
Depp.
better. Who knows? And also Dwayne The Rock Johnson still got a chance.
We should just pitch that to him.
Yeah.
A sequel.
I mean, look, he's doing Jumanji.
He can be a grown-up Charlie Bucket.
Oh,
that is now
yeah.
taken-
That would be great.
He like goes from this scrawny little kid.
To like
To, like, a-
ROTC. And
See, this is the crossover between the Fast and the Furious franchise that we've been
that we
waiting
need.
for.
That we need.
Dom Toretto driving a Ferrari through
You
the
just-
chocolate room
There's
into the river.
There's just all these candies that spell out family. Family.
Danny, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for letting me give my insights on film. I know I have so many of
You
them.
have so many, and this was great. I was really glad to have you on. Where can our listeners find your work?
I am at Ms. Dani Fernandez on all the social medias. I am also a host over at Hyper RPG. We have a weekly comic show every Wednesday that I do with a couple of other comics. Ify Wadiwe and Danielle Radford are on it.
Great,
Johnny Cruz,
great
he's the
duo.
voice. He's the voice of Lucio on Overwatch. So, anyways, yeah, check out it's twitch.tv/hyperrpg.
Super cool. Thank you to the Comedy Store, as always, for having this fun little studio. And to my man in the booth, Max Goldman. What a guy. He's just pointing. I thought he was going to say something.
Oh, no, thank
You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, jlightcomedy.com for show dates. If you are in the Dallas area, I will be coming home for Christmas and doing some spots with Preacher Lawson at the Addison Improv on Saturday, December 23rd. And
at Prestonwood Baptist.
Prestonwood Baptist, ready to go back to White's Chapel Methodist. This has been Blockbusting. Oh, and rate and subscribe in iTunes, please. We're getting up there in episodes, and I know we got some new listeners after the past couple weeks. So take a couple seconds, give us a rating, give us a review. I would really appreciate it. It's a Christmas gift to me. Just think about it like that. You don't have to spend any money. Just 10 seconds of your time. I'm gonna wink at the camera for all the listening audience at home. This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.